cruise missile appearing to drop decoys as it goes slams into a residential block. This is Ternopil in western Ukraine, hundreds of miles from the front line, targeted as part of a massive overnight Russian assault. Another 9-story building in the city also hit, its top floors sheared away in the blast.
My son is still in the apartment on the 9th floor. I talked to him before the explosions. He said, "Mum, everything will be fine, don't worry." I tried calling him, but I couldn't reach him.
As reports emerged of behind-the-scenes US-Russia deal-making on terms for ending the war, in plain sight, Russia launching a wave of more than 500 drones and missiles deep into Ukrainian territory. Ukraine's president today in Ankara for talks with the Turkish president, he said, about how to bring a just peace to Ukraine. But indications that he'd also meet the US envoy Steve Witkoff here were scotched at the last minute. The US news site Axios instead reporting that Witkoff held days of talks in the States last month with his Russian opposite number Kirill Dmitriev, drafting a 28-point plan in which Russia felt its position was heard. Witkoff, whose critics have called him naive in his dealings with Vladimir Putin, apparently no expert in the use of X, appearing to confuse a public reply with a direct message, suggesting the reporter must have got this from K, as in K for Kirill, the post since deleted.
Many processes have now been activated. We're trying to ensure that all activity is directed towards peace, towards a dignified peace and a guaranteed security.
Reuters today reporting the plan outlines a reduction in Ukraine's territory, weaponry and armed forces, a hard sell at home, even for a president at the height of his authority. And Zelensky is arguably at his lowest. The Kyiv parliament today voting to dismiss the justice minister and the energy minister for their alleged roles in a $100 million corruption scandal. The alleged mastermind, a former business partner of the president, reported to have fled to Israel. And what of Ukraine's European partners? Poland blaming Russia for a sabotage attack on its rail network as expelling some Russian diplomats and announcing a deployment of up to 10,000 soldiers to help defend national infrastructure. Here too, promises of more robust action after a Russian spy ship that maps undersea cables was again spotted off Britain.
We deployed a Royal Navy frigate and RAF P-8 planes to monitor and track this vessel's every move, during which the Yantar directed lasers at our pilots. That Russian action is deeply dangerous.
Donald Trump has before protested when Russia has killed Ukrainian civilians after talking peace with American diplomats. Now it seems no such qualms in a push to end the war on terms Ukraine has always rejected.
Well, a little earlier, I spoke to the Defence Secretary John Healey whilst he was visiting a new factory to manufacture AI-powered underwater drones today in Plymouth. And I began by asking him about the Russian spy ship, which has been sailing near the edge of UK waters. What did he mean when he said, "We are ready to respond"?
It means if spy ships like this come into British waters, if they start to threaten our undersea cables, then we are ready. We have tracked them every inch of the way, and I have military options. I'm obviously not going to lay those out for you because it makes Putin wiser, but we will do whatever it takes to deter the threats for the future.
You presumably don't think Russia wants to invade Britain, and we're not at threat from wars in the Middle East directly. What is the threat to Britain?
The immediate threat is what I've set out today. Russian spy ship like Yantar, menacing our undersea cables, cyber attacks on our UK defence system, over 90,000 linked to states, including Russia, in the last year alone. Putin isn't just increasing his attacks in Ukraine, he's increasing his aggression beyond Ukraine, so the threats from Russia are real and rising, and we're determined to meet those.
So are we already effectively in a hybrid war with Russia? Is that what you're saying?
We're certainly under daily attack in cyber, in air incursions, and in some of the other, if you like, hybrid types of aggression. What that means is that we must be more vigilant. It means that we must call out Russia or China when they have spies looking to interfere with our system in this country. We will do that, but at the same time, we will make sure that as we plan for the future, alongside allies, that we can be stronger together.
On Ukraine, it appears the Americans are very advanced on a peace plan. There's reports of a 28-point plan, negotiations between Steve Witkoff and Kirill Dmitriev, and Europe seems to be totally cut out of it. I mean, are you part of this plan?
So we've backed President Trump to do what only President Trump can do, which is potentially to bring President Putin and President Zelensky together to reach a point where the end of this 3.5-year invasion of Ukraine and the fighting can come to an end. Our job as the UK, leading the coalition of the willing, leading the contact group of nations supporting Ukraine in the fight.
So just doing
is
what
to
we're
make
told.
sure that we give Ukraine this is the UK leading the group of 50 nations, keeping Ukraine in the fight by stepping up the military aid we provide, and the UK leading the coalition of the willing, 30+ nations, ready to secure this peace for the long term if President Trump can help secure an end to the fighting and a negotiated peace. And the signs are encouraging. 3 weeks ago, America introduced their first economic sanctions on Russian oil companies to try and bring Putin to the table. And now American military figures in Ukraine looking at the prospects for a peace plan. We give that all our support, but our job is to be ready for that.
At a time like this, the British government must look strong and stable. And right now, it's looking anything but.
This is Britain with a Labour government, stronger, more influential with allies, resetting relations with Europe, maintaining that strong security relationship with the UK, putting in a record investment into defence and making sure that we can make Britain safer.
Defence Secretary, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, let's get the view from Kyiv now. And joining me is the Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik from the opposition Holos Party. We've had all of these reports about this 28-point peace plan that Russia and America are talking about. Do you fear that this will not be in Ukraine's favour?
Well, I'm absolutely sure that it will not be in Ukraine's favor. Because when dealing with Russia, you shouldn't listen what they're saying. You should be looking at what they're doing. And I can tell you, being here on the ground in Kyiv, there is no ceasefire in sight. Russia continues attacking us and has shown no signs of stopping. So we have only one response to all the attempts to pressure Ukraine onto something that would be considered a capitulation. We didn't capitulate in 2022. We do not intend to do it right now. The situation is very hard, but I do not believe that it is possible to have a just peace, or as President Trump promised, peace through strength, without Ukraine's involvement and when you are only favoring Russia. We had agreed to unconditional ceasefire.
But Ukraine appears to be being shut out. And then when you look at what's coming out of the Russian-US proposals, reportedly including Ukraine giving up control of Donbass, giving up weapons capable of reaching Moscow, cutting the size of your army, even recognising Russian as the official state language. What is your reaction to all that?
This is just another attempt to put us into capitulation that will be just coming later. The main goal that Ukrainians have right now is to preserve our state, but also to make sure that our children will not have to fight the same war. And so right now, crippling Ukraine's defense capabilities is just simply not acceptable. And I'm sure that President Trump and his surrounding understand that. And I'm sure our European allies understand that. Because if Ukraine is weak, who is going to defend Europe against Russia's aggression? Or is still everybody thinks that Russia's aggression will not come further?
But does Europe understand that? Because this corruption scandal in Ukraine has weakened President Zelensky, hasn't it? Doesn't he need to take what he's offered?
Absolutely not. There is a corruption scandal around President Zelensky, but Ukraine is not President Zelensky. Ukraine consists of so many brave men and women who are fighting right now at the front line. Weakening our response because of some scandal would mean betraying them and all the sacrifices that all Ukrainians have made during this wartime. We will go through the political crisis as we deal with the political crises. But the future of the country cannot be decided by some situational moment. We need to approach this in a very adult way.
But if Ukraine isn't President Zelensky, to all intents and purposes, on the international stage, it is. Does there need to be a government of national unity? Is that possible?
Of course, Casey, and this is what we are calling on in the parliament. We cannot have elections right now, neither presidential nor parliamentary, but what we can do to regain people's trust and the trust of our allies is to rebuild the coalition and elect a new government that will be voted in the parliament. And we all think that in parliamentary presidential republic, this is the best way to go. And of course, giving up on the coalition will be a good sign from President Zelensky to show the whole world that he had nothing to do with the corruption scandals and to separate himself from that. We are looking forward for him coming back to Ukraine and doing the right thing. And you are absolutely right. On the international arena, he is the representation of Ukraine. And this is why it's not only Ukrainians who are watching. The whole world is watching if President will be able to do the right thing.
Kira Rudik, thank you very much for joining us.